Got a little friend who decided to take a ride with me in the car. I don't think it's gonna be a fun ride for him, but I'm actually gonna take him back to the house because he needs to be reunited with his family. Yeah, he's pretty wild looking. That's probably the ride of his life right there. We'll try to pick him up and get him off there. You want to say hi? Yeah, you want to go ahead? It's time for you to get off, buddy. How are we going to do this, huh? So say hi. Say hi to the camera. Come on. And there you go. I'm not trying to hurt you. Come on. Yeah, go ahead and go. We'll get you off the car. Come on. Nice and slow. There you go, buddy. Come on. You got to get off. Yeah, you got to go down. I'm not trying to hurt you. There you go. Make your way down. Go ahead. There you go. Nice and slow. There you go. All right. He's free. No harm done. See there? All right. All right, buddy. I'll see you in a little bit, okay? I know you're probably scared to death, so. So hey everybody, welcome back to Bow and Arrow Garage. So today I'm going to be working on the Tahoe actually. I talked about a while back that I was going to go ahead and get it running and it's going to become my daily driver so I can start working on the C10 a little bit. So that's what I'm doing today. The transmission right now is at the transmission shop. It should be back in a week or two. A buddy of mine's doing it. He's a great transmission guy, but he's just kind of doing it on the side. So it'll be ready here probably maybe next week, at the worst case 2 weeks from now. But right now I'm doing some little things. I'm going to go ahead and replace the radiator and a couple other things on the Tahoe before the transmission gets here. That way when it gets here I can go ahead and just throw the transmission in and it should be ready to go. So without anything further being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump into it and we're going to get working on this thing. So as you can see, I got the engine beauty cover off. I went ahead and pulled the air cleaner off and got my throttle body taped up so nothing gets in there. And I'm going to go ahead and start getting these lines disconnected. I already pulled this one off that goes to the overflow tank. I'm going to get down here in a few minutes and get this lower radiator hose off and drain all the coolant out. But I wanted to do this for a couple of reasons. I didn't drive this vehicle very much. My wife told me after the transmission went out that it had started having some issues when she was idling, that it would start warming up a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the radiator. It's probably more to do with either the water pump or the thermostat. And I'm going to go ahead and change the thermostat out also. And then when I put it back together, I'm going to make sure the fans are running. Later on, if I have to, I'll replace the water pump, but there's a lot of room in here, so I'm not going to do it just at this time. Anyway, so I want to go ahead and get this thing taken apart and get it ready to change this radiator out. So as you can see, I've got all this stuff pulled out right now. I'm going to go ahead and start working toward getting it back in. I've got the new radiator in the house, so I'll get it pulled out and get everything ready. So here is the new radiator. It is the same as the old one with a few exceptions. This one has a petcock here to drain the radiator if needed, and I don't know what this is for. The old one doesn't have that, but I don't think it's going to cause any issues, so kind of is what it is. And this side looks exactly the same. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing installed in the Tahoe, and then we'll move on from there. So I'm getting ready to install these transcooler lines. I like to cover the ends just to keep any dirt or grease from getting inside the line when you're routing it through. So I don't know how good of a video I can get right now of these fittings, but it's actually on the old radiator. The fitting for the oil cooler line was an integral part of the radiator, and this one has a boss in the radiator, and the fitting actually screws into it. Well, what that ended up doing is pushing that back. It actually changed where this bracket that holds the transmission cooler line on sits, so I had to shim it back a little bit. But it also, because it pushed the transmission cooler lines back, I actually had to flip my lower radiator hose because it was hitting this lower transmission cooler line here. So, man, I tell you, just a slight little bit off and it just changes everything. So it was kind of a little bit of a mess. But I think this is going to work. I'm going to go ahead and hook everything else back up, and then we'll go from here. So, as I mentioned earlier, I climbed up here under the Tahoe. I'm going ahead and just getting some stuff ready for when the transmission is ready. I wanted to go ahead and change the rear main seal. A while back, the dealership told my wife that it was leaking. Honestly, I don't think it was, but while I'm in here, I'm going to go ahead and just change it out. I'm also going to pull this oil galley plug out and replace it since I'm in here. So yeah, we got her to pop out there. So made it quite a mess. Go ahead and get the new one ready and get it popped in. So anyways, I'm going to get some clean oil, soak the O-ring from the new one in the clean oil, and then pop it in there. So this is the old oil galley diverter plug. I actually put the new one in and cut the O-ring, so I had to run up to town to get another one. So I'm about to pull that one out and get the new one in. So hopefully I don't have any issues, because it's getting dark on me and I just found out I have to work tomorrow. So I'm going to try to get this thing together. So today I've got a lot of work in front of me. I'm going to be reinstalling the transmission in the Tahoe. In a minute I'll turn the camera around and show you all the stuff I've got. It's about 11 o'clock right now. I've been going at it since early this morning. I had to go pick up the transmission from my buddy, and then I had to go find all the parts. I should have done that before, but I'm just really busy. So anyways, I've got everything ready. I'm going to have my son out here helping me quite a bit today because, like I said, there's a lot of work to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get the camera turned around. I'll show you everything I have, and then we'll move forward. So there's the transmission freshly rebuilt. I've got my trans fluid. I've also got some coolant. I've got another jug of it in the in my little cupboard over here. Got some brake parts cleaner, a new transmission mount, and the torque converter. So I'm going to go ahead and get this torque converter, start getting some fluid in it, and then I'll go get the Tahoe jacked up back on the stands, and we're going to move forward and get this thing done today. So before we jump into the transmission of the Tahoe, I wanted to give you a quick update on the C3 Corvette. So you can see I bought this plug for where the GR valve used to hook up, and what that means is that I'm going to end up using my old LS1 intake manifold. And I know it's not the greatest intake manifold. It's probably the worst one besides the LS4. But with the money that I'm spending on the Tahoe right now and just everything, I just don't have time to do all the research I need to do. And right now I'm going to try to get this car running. So I've kind of worked out all of my fuel feed issues. And so I'm going to be jumping into this thing here within the next few weeks. And we're going to get our fuel line completely ran. I'm using the Russell twist and lock fittings from the tank up to here. But I have this kit. It's a SUR&R kit. It's a fuel line repair kit. I bought it several years ago. It's pretty expensive. And it has nylon lines, and I'm going to end up using those from the engine down to the frame rail, basically, and then I'm going to connect into the Russell lines. So I've had that kit, that SUR&R kit, for a long time, and I've only used a few pieces out of it. It was pretty expensive, so I'm gonna try to make use of some of the parts, and mainly because I needed the 90 coming off of here, and this has it has 90s in the SUR&R kit. And also because of the fact that I cut, with just through trial and error, I ended up cutting some of my Russell line too short, and I was going to have to order some more. And right now I'm on a pretty tight budget, so I'm going to do this just to get it running. I'll probably readdress it later on when I change the intake manifold. But I just wanted to give you an update on that. That's going to be coming together pretty quickly, and then I've got to order a few parts, and hopefully next week we're going to get this intake permanently installed. And then I'm going to start doing my wiring, and we're going to try to get this thing started by the end of June. So we're pretty close to the end of May right now, so I'm looking at another month. So be patient with me. We're going to jump on the Tahoe now, and we'll readdress this here in a week or so. So we want to get some fluid in this torque converter before I install it on the transmission. It takes a little while for it to drain down into it. So let's take a quick look at it. It's amazing how heavy those things are. They are pretty heavy. So when you're working on transmission, cleanliness is definitely next to godliness. So we want to keep this thing as clean as possible. Thankfully, last night we had a pretty good storm, and so there aren't a lot of people out mowing right now. So there's not going to be a bunch of dust in the air, at least I hope not. And it's funny because I bought this Valvoline Dexron 6, which is what this vehicle takes. And I was surprised because it's in a red container. And I thought that the Dexron 6 that I've always bought from Valvoline was in a blue container. And it is. I guess they just changed the packaging. So the Dexron 3 and the Dexron 6 used to be blue packaging. Now I guess they decided to make it a little easier for people. See if I can get this plug off here. I want to use something plastic. I don't want to scratch that thing up. It's got a little pressure in. All right. You want to pretty much fill it up and then let it drain down. You want to get at least a minimum of about a quart in there. I mean, half a quart. Between half a quart and a quart. The more you can get in there, the better. But when you install it in the transmission, some of it's going to pour out. So. All right, we'll let that drain down, and we'll start getting everything else set up. And there wasn't a whole lot in here. I just wanted to use what I had laying around. Thank God for my buddy that rebuilt the transmission for me. Transmission repair places are so fraught with corruption. It's really, really sad. And so if you find somebody you trust, then that's definitely someone you want to go with. I'm going to go ahead and actually push this back in. I'm going to remove the tailgate off of this truck real quick. Make things easier. All right, I got the engine mount on and torqued. I've got a little more fluid in the torque converter. I'm gonna go ahead and go out and get the Tahoe jacked up. I'm not gonna film that. Get it ready, get it set up, and then we'll come in, probably add a little more fluid to the torque converter and get this thing out and get it installed in the Tahoe. So I just lubricated this O-ring right here with a little bit of transmission fluid, and also the torque converter outside diameter. I'm going to pour just a little bit more fluid in there and kind of let it work its way down, and then we'll get this torque converter installed. Oops. All right. So and we're looking at we've got about half a quart from that, and then whatever was left in the other bottle, which was probably a fourth of a quart. So we got about 3/4 of a quart. Like I said, I'm going to let this kind of work its way down, and somehow I've already hurt my back. That's not a good sign. That's what happens to old men. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get this torque converter installed. When you put it on, you want to slide it on and kind of rotate it, and as you push in, and you should hear 3 definitive clunks. But basically what you want is when it's fully installed, you should have about 1.25 inches from the end of the bell housing to the front of the torque converter, and also you should hear a light scraping as you turn it. So I'm going to go ahead and try to work this puppy in here. You might have to come around a little bit. I'll probably lose a little bit of the fluid, but that's okay, as long as I don't lose it on me. This thing is not light. Okay. And as you can see, we lost some of our fluid. There it goes. And 3. So let me get on this real quick. All right. So I think we're good. I'm gonna go grab my tape measure. We'll just measure. Said it should be about a little bit over 1 inch from here to the end of the bell housing. So if you look from the edge of this bolt flange down, we've got about 1.25 inches. So when you tighten these down, it's actually going to pull it out just a little bit. That's fine, but you want to make sure you have it in far enough, because if you don't, when you try to hook everything up, you might feel some interference, and then it could actually, if it's not engaged properly, it could damage both the engine and the transmission. So we're good. All right, and then when we put the transmission in, we want to make sure not to lean it down too much so that this falls out, because it is pretty heavy. So anyways, I think I'm going to have to jack the vehicle up just a little bit, try to slide this up under it, but I may be wrong. Let's see here. How tall is it? 18.5 and 18.5, so we might be good. All right, try to slide this thing up under here. Okay. And the one thing I have to do before I put the transmission in is I have to I have to install the transmission dipstick. So you guys don't let me forget to do that. And I'm trying to use this cardboard because concrete is very abrasive and it'll tear you up over the course of a day. All right, so we've got the transmission in, got some of the mount bolts in and torqued. Some of them are just very, very difficult to get on straight. And about as low as it'll go. If you've watched any of my videos, you know I believe in using a torque wrench. All right, so that's torqued. That was torqued. So I got all the easy ones. I've got two really difficult ones. I'm just going to do those off camera. I wish I could show you a trick to get them, but it's just good old-fashioned perseverance. So that's what we're going to have to do. Okay, I'm getting ready to install this exhaust. Got the transmission to engine mount bolts installed with all the bracketry and all that mess. So I've got to slide this in, get this up and in place, and then we can install the transmission cross member and have the transmission at least mounted in the vehicle. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and slide this thing in. It's a little bit heavy, but it'll get her. And I've still got to put my torque converter bolts in, but I want to get this installed first to get the cross member on. That way the engine is, or the transmission I should say, is in here solid, and then I can go ahead and work on those, spin the engine over and what have you. All right, so we got the transmission bolts, the transmission cross member, the exhaust. We've got the shifter hooked up. We ran it through, it works. So the last thing we're doing here as far as the transmission is hooking up the torque converter bolts. So we're gonna turn this thing over, and got the one bolt lined up. I'm gonna go ahead and line up the torque converter, get it started, and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, I was going to change my valve cover gaskets tonight, but I am pretty worn out. I've got the transmission in, so I'm putting a little transmission fluid in it, and I'm going to start it up, and then I'm going to have to pour some more in pretty quickly. So I also changed the radiator, so I'm going to have to fill the radiator also. Okay guys, it's been a long day. We've got the transmission in. I was going to go ahead and change the valve cover gaskets also, but I'm just going to save that for next weekend. I'm going to go ahead, I put 4 quarts of transmission fluid in it. That's about all you can really put in until you start it up. And if you've ever seen this before, it's pretty violent when you first start it up and it's that low. So I'm ready, set up to put 4 more quarts in as soon as I can. So I'm going to go ahead and start it up, and then we'll jump on it. That wasn't nearly as bad as I've seen in the past. I'm also putting coolant in because I changed the radiator. So I threw some Dextrol concentrate in here. Now I'm putting distilled water, and then I've got some leftover 50-50 mix that I'm going to go ahead and add to it also. I don't know if I have enough. I may have to go buy some more. From everything I read, with the transmission that's completely dry, it should take about 11 quarts. I'm sorry, about 11 and a half. And that's with the shallow pan. This one has the deep pan in it, so it may be up to even close to 13. I want to put 10 in it for now. And then I'm going to cycle the gear lever, and then we'll check it with the dipstick. So it looks like my water is doing good. I'm going to go ahead and put the cap on it for now. Actually, I'm going to leave it off for a few minutes. So, one more time. right, we're dry. We got a little drop right there. So that was actually a lot less violent than I've seen. A couple of times I've done it, man. It just shakes like crazy until you get fluid in it. Okay, everybody, that's going to do it for this video. I'm happy to say that the Tahoe is fixed. I actually finished the transmission last week, and I've been driving the car all week, and it's just running great. I did end up having to replace both of the fans on it, and that was probably what killed the transmission in the first place. I think probably one of the fans was already dead, and then the other one died, and that's when my wife was getting the overheating issue. And I don't know if you remember, but when I went to work on my daughter's BMW when she broke down in Conroe, right before the transmission went out, the car overheated on me pretty bad. And that's probably what ended up killing the transmission. Thank God it didn't seem to have any adverse effects on the engine. So like I said, I've been driving it for about a week. All is well with the Tahoe. And honestly, I made a video on this only because of the fact that now this is going to free me up to start working on the C10 truck as well as working on the C3. And unfortunately, it's been a while since I made a video. It's been several weeks. But really, honestly, I had to take a lot of the money that I was planning on using on the car to get the transmission and everything fixed. So that's kind of part of this thing. These things get really expensive really quickly, especially when you're talking about components like transmissions and radiators and radiator fans. So like I said, you know, it's been unfortunate, but at the same time now, it has freed me up to work on the C10, and it's in dire need of some tender loving care. So anyways, with that being said, I'm going to shut down the video here. I want to say thank you very much for joining me on this video. I know a lot of you probably didn't really care about a Chevy Tahoe, but like I said, that's going to open up the future so I can get to work on the Corvette, but not only the Corvette, but the C10 truck. So with that being said, thanks again for watching, and we hope to see you next time.